1, 2, 3. Okay. Now then, I don't use a whip finish tool on this because it's a pain in the butt. But a Chris Helms he just uses his whip finishing tool, and what he did is he just wraps it 3 times. So 3 wraps, and then he rotates the pen in towards you, and you pull on that thread as you go. Support that hook and snug it down. And I always do a double whip finish because that's the way I was taught. Thank you, John Romer. Okay, that should be about it for that. Just going to put away a couple of my tools here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of put that in over by the eye and push. So now we are done with that portion of our fly tie-in. Now we're going to give this thing a haircut. When it comes to doing the haircuts, I like on poppers. I like to use a template. I've used a template for years, and then I stopped using them. I was using metal templates, and then when I saw the Mike A. George video, he's using these plastic ones, and I thought, wow, that's kind of neat. So he's kind of the inspiration for me using the plastic templates. If you're just tying 1 fly, 2 flies, well, actually, if you're tying more than 1 fly, you should get a template. The reason being is that you get consistency. If you're tying for yourself, maybe that's not important, but if you're tying for friends or a shop or whatever, they're going to want consistency. So I'm going to just pull all this hair back out of the way in the face and put on this template, like so. Now then, my rule is 1 razor blade per fly. You can buy these. This is Dorco, I think they're called. You can buy these. Not good focus there. Sorry, guys. I can buy 1,000 for like $64. So you're looking at 6 cents a piece. So. Now, before I even get started, one thing I want to do is I want to heat up my my wood burning tool. So I'm just going to put this off to the side and plug it in real quick. That way it's heating up while we're doing our thing here. All right. Excuse me. On these blades, there's the Dorco on top and something else on the bottom there. I always use the Dorco side first, and I use that for the rough cuts, and then I'll use the other side for my my finishing cuts. Now, when I'm slicing this thing, remember that we stacked in the natural tips, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus my eye right about here, okay? Because I don't want to go any further. I don't want to slice off all those tips. I will use a pair of scissors to actually get it close. So what we're going to do, we'll bend our blade along our template and just kind of do a cut. And one thing I didn't do, and again, remember, I'm looking right here. Let me turn this around. I can go a little bit deeper in this. This is what I call the first cut. I always like the first cut. It's always fun to do that. And so now I'm going to roll over on his belly. Before I go too far, I got some yellow that's a little further south than what it's supposed to be. So we're just going to we'll tease it where it needs to be at. Okay, gonna pack her out of the way, and we'll do the belly. Again, these are all coarse cuts, so it isn't going to be my final cut, obviously. Again, be mindful of the with those tips. Then I'm going to bend it and do the side the same way. I'll follow the shape of the template. Just go a little further back. Now do it on the other side. Not my best work, unfortunately, but it'll still do good. I'm just using a template as a guide. Okay, so right now it's nice and blocky. Well, I don't know if I'd say nice, but it's blocky. I'm going to want to have that body have a bevel to it slightly. So what I'm going to do first, though, is I got to get all those butt ends out from back here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it from out of the vise. Hopefully I can do this on camera. Let me see where I'm at here. I'll try to do this as best I can on camera. So I'm just going to trim all these butt ends off as best I can. And be patient. You don't have to do a whole lot at once. I just work my way around. For me, this is always the hardest spot right here because I'm right-handed. And you can spend days doing this, so just find a spot that you're happy with. Okay, so basically I got most of those off of there, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this fairly deep here, just on the very end. I'm just going up here against the natural tips, and I push down and I slice. Like so. So now I have a little bit of a valley here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to my razor blade again. I'm going to hold on to my natural tips. Going to get this magnifying glass out of my way. And now I'm going to go at an angle with my blade. I'm just going to slice down. And I'm trying to maintain the same angle on my blade as I do this. And I'm trying to build that taper. Because I'm not building, I'm slicing that taper. I'm out of range here. Sorry, guys. There's a section of butt ends on here. I'm just going to trim those off. One thing I need to work on this thing is my lighting, because I can barely see what I'm doing here. Okay, it's getting in shape, looking pretty good actually. Alright, so now I'm going to put it back in the vise. Okay, now I'm going to take the side I haven't used yet, and I'm just going to kind of smooth out these edges a little bit. Again, you use a template as a guide. There's our basic shape, so I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to clean up this deer hair mess I got going, because I'm going to be doing some gluing, and I like to have a fairly clean bench when I do that. That way I don't get all this extra hunks of hair where it doesn't belong on my fly. Usually I just use a vacuum cleaner, but it's loud and obnoxious and you don't need that. So get it all cleaned up as best I can. That looks pretty good. My soldering iron is still heating up. I should actually probably be ready by now, but I gotta grab a couple eyes first. Again, I'm gonna use a 6mm eyes, solid plastic with the stem in them. I'll get those real quick. I didn't have those out. Sorry about that again. This is the only fly that I've used this eye color. Now, they're supposed to be yellow, but it's more like a school bus yellow. But it really looks good on this pattern. Again, I wish I could remember who the person was that introduced me to this actual color combination, because I like to give him the credit he deserves. Okay, so I'm going to take a pair of dikes, put them in front there, and I'm going to slice off that stem, because like I said, we don't need it. And these are flat cutting dikes. Okay, got those ready to go. I'm going to also need a piece of plastic. If you watched a Cohen's videos, you know what these are for. I've been using these for, gee whiz, 20 plus years. It just makes life a lot easier when you're tying off your fly and whatnot. Put that off to the side here because we're going to need it. But the first thing I think I'm going to do is glue this face. The glue I'm using, oh, that just dawned on me. I recently broke a bodkin like about an hour and a half ago, so I'm gonna have to rethink how I do one of the parts on this thing. But head back to this glue here. This is shoe goop along with a tiling. I gotta get all that hair off my fingers. We'll pull off this. Yeah, I could use a little bit more hair on this thing. It's not as packed as I'd like it. I should have used a little bit more, but oh well. Doom on me. I'm just going to coat the face with this. See, I got some unruly hairs here. We'll deal with those in a moment. We'll put this back on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a little needle here just to hold that in place for a little bit. And while I have the time, I'm just going to snip off those those wild hairs that aren't supposed to be there. I don't like that either. Okay, we'll let that dry for just a couple minutes here. It won't take long. It's a temporary measure. Eventually I'm going to put some Solares on there. Excuse me. That'll harden up the face. That way it doesn't go like this and surround your eye to where you're not able to tie in your tippet material. Oh, I didn't do that, did I? Nope. Usually when I do the wheat guard, I prep it, the length, and I didn't do that on this one, so we're going to have to figure that one out on the run. That's not the end of the world, though. No big deal. Take that out. Okay. Now earlier, no, I can't find it. I grabbed a piece of plastic, remember? No, I don't see it on here. So I'll grab another one. It's just a plastic square. There we go. Poke a hole in this plastic with a needle, okay? That way it's around the center. It doesn't have to be perfect, just close. Peel off our template, and we'll put our plastic, that hole right over the eye, if I can see it. Can't tell if I got it on there or not. No, we're gonna find, nope. Gotta put some light on this for me. Sorry guys. I can't see what I'm doing. There it is. Okay, now it's on there. Then we'll take our 6/0 thread. We'll take our packer. Pack the deer here a little bit. Then I'll fold over the plastic like so. Okay, now then, what we're going to do is we're going to pull our wheat guard material through the hook eye. Oops, look what I found. Okay, we'll pull it through the hook eye. Hold all that plastic out of the way. Make about 10 wraps. Then I want to eye where I want this thing. Usually I do this ahead of time, but I didn't. So we're just gonna we're gonna use our smooth jaw pliers and flatten it out. Then we'll take our dikes, slice off so there's maybe a 1/16 of an inch left. Then I'll take my nail, I'll bend that over the flattened part, and the reason I flattened it obviously is so that it's not quite so bulky. With that being said, it's got a got to be able to tie it down, or it doesn't do us any good, does it? There we go. And we'll whip finish this off, because now I got plastic on there. It's a lot easier to use our whip finish tool. And I try to always wrap it as close to the plastic as I can. Again, 2 whip finishes. Get that thread out of the way, and now we'll cut off this plastic. Just go right up to the top, pull it apart. Oops, got a little piece on there. That's pretty rare. It doesn't happen very often. There we go. I know this face looks all beat up and bent. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of that before it's all said and done. So now then, I'm going to straighten out our weed guard. So it's going straight over the hook there. If you do it like this, you won't have any problem at all hooking fish. And I've cast these flies into trees on purpose. And if you're slow with your retrieve, it'll come out fairly simple. They don't snag up. There's a little flat spot there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our goop, and we're going to burn our eye sockets. So we'll find out where we want our eye at, and just kind of just using a pair of pliers to scrape out the burnt hair on that iron. So now I got a socket here, but it's all charred. So what you got to do with that is scrape out all that charred deer hair. Because if you don't, no matter how much glue you put in here, it's not going to hold. Your eye is going to pop out. So once it's out, I'm going to use my my 50-50 blend. This is basically Dave's Flex Cement, and I'm going to saturate that socket with this. I don't know if you really have to do this anymore, but I've been doing it like this for so long that it's just habit for me. Then I'm going to get a dollop of goop. Get our goop out. Get a little dollop of that, and you don't need a lot. Come up here and grab right about there. This is all you need. Okay, you don't need any more than that. Just makes a mess. We'll rub this into our socket like so. We'll take our eye. And voila, we got ourselves a pretty little fly going here. So now I got to do the other side. I kind of want the eyes to be referenced to the same place. I like them towards the front, a little low center. Because if it's high, it's just going to want to roll over on its back, and that doesn't do us any good. We'll scrape out our socket once I clean my needle. we'll add our primer. And you'll notice I kind of dab it in there. It's just to work it into the fly, that's all. We'll get another dollop of our goop. No, I think that's a little too much. So I think that's a bit much, but so I won't use it all. I'll only use like maybe 3/4 of it. And we'll place our eye in there. Okay, she's just about done. Excuse me again, sorry about the coughing. Okay, we're doing good there. Our last thing we're going to want to do is put on some Solaris. I like to use the Solaris Flex on this part of it because it dries and it's still flexible once it's done, once it's cured. Okay, I'm going to do this in 2 steps. The first step is I'm going to get the outer side of the face first, and then I'll do the actual face itself. Okay, so don't need a whole lot of this stuff. You want to spread it out. What I don't want is big old clumps of it on there because it just doesn't look good. And like I say, the reason I had to do this is because I fish these flies. There's so much hair packed in this thing that they want to go like this over the eye, and then you're kind of in a jam the next day when you want to use this fly. So we're just going to blast it real quick. Like so. Do the next portion of it. Like I said before, you don't have to use a whole lot of this stuff. This torch I have here is the old Clear Cure Goo. It was a super torch, I guess, for lack of a better word. And it uses Surefire batteries, which aren't cheap, but man, it seals this stuff up so darn quick. Works great. Okay, I got one here. There it goes. Okay. We're going to hold all this hair back. Blast it real quick. Okay, I only got one more section here on the side and we'll be done with this portion of it, and then I got to do the face. Never thought I'd ever use this stuff on my flies, but it works. It does what I needed to do. Okay, now I'm going to do the face. So I basically put a bead on there, and then I'll take this pin, if I don't drop it again, and I'll kind of go from the center out. Now, on 99% of my poppers I put legs on it, but I don't put legs on this one. I don't know why, I just haven't. Maybe if I had a tangerine colored legs, I would put those on there, maybe. But it just looks so nice without it. Okay, see how this one here is sticking up a little bit? We're going to hold it back and blast it. There we go. And this thing's about done. I put my cap back on the Solaris. This stuff's not cheap. And there you have it. A pretty little popper. A little bit off on this black, this one here. Shame on me. But the fish aren't going to care. And the last thing I would probably do is I would just tease out this collar a little bit in the back, and once I'm done with it, I'm probably gonna stick it in some light so that the Solaris will harden a little bit. And there's a piece right there that's got to come out. See, it's just a butt end. Not a whole lot of extra butt ends in here. I'm surprised because, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of light. Got to work on that. And there you have it. I hope that helped you. I hope you learned something. Let me know if you want me to do something different. Like I say, eventually I want to do how to stack, but I need to figure out how I'm going to go about doing that. Actually filming it. So maybe in 2 stages. Thanks again. Have an awesome time on the water. Bye-bye.